a very important perspective associated with last week's program to give a segue into some of the thoughts that and concepts that demands that we look into a subject like social accountability and social responsibility, race relations, the question of what and how we should look at race as a concept. We discussed someone who played a very pivotal role in some major changes in Bermuda's cultural development. And I'm going to read a portion of what is part of the segue that makes me feel that we owe some time and attention to a subject like social reform, the better understanding of race relations that's going to promote us to the highest and most common denominator of human relations. I'm going to quote what was said while I was talking about the contribution of a former director of Community and Cultural Affairs, Mr. Lodru Robinson, one who was responsible for making some major changes in the Ministry of Cultural and Community and of Cultural and Home Affairs. I quote what was in his interview last week that was in the RG, the Royal Gazette. However, he was pleased, speaking about Mr. Lodru Robinson, after coming back to Bermuda, visiting Bermuda to see what's going on in Bermuda and to offer some valuable books that he's written and putting in the library and the archives of Bermuda for our posterity. However, he was pleased at the speed of social progress in Bermuda over the past 20 years. We have an opportunity tonight to give your view on what time has passed that makes people feel like Mr. Lodru Robinson of being happy, pleased at the speed of social progress in Bermuda over the past 20 years. It has been amazing, he said. Bermuda is on the road towards a harmonious society. For that to continue, Mr. Lodru Robinson said and argued, Bermudians must move away from thinking in terms of race relations and focus more on human relations and relationships. He says race is a concept. He says there is no such thing as a white race, nor is there such thing as a black race or race at all. It is all artificial. As long as we have a white and black issue, there is going to be conflict and less progress towards real harmony. As long as we have white and black, there is going to be conflict and less progress towards real harmony. Now we have an opportunity to even question, should we be looking at harmony and social relationships, or should we understand if the groups of people that make up the communities described as Caucasian, described as black people, are they being accommodated according to their needs? Do we look for social involvement, or do we look for establishment that we could be proud of and be representative of our dignified belief in ourselves? Should we be looking for social reform before we look for establishment? That's something for us to think about tonight. I want us to consider what comes along with the subject of race relations. We're going to approach tonight as pragmatically as possible. We're looking at being concerned with practical consequences of our actions or our beliefs. Are we getting satisfactory results based on our actions according to how we believe? And I'm going to put that across for the third time. To be pragmatic tonight, to relate and approach this subject in a practical way, to deal with practical affairs, the things that we can practice, to be concerned with the consequences of our actions, the things that we practice because of our beliefs. We have an opportunity for us to build on these types of concerns and considerations, not just to say, this is what it is, this is what it should be. We should want to understand, are we addressing the needs of the day? Are we dealing with our priorities correctly? Do we have our priorities in the right order? A people's knowledge is their strength. A people's knowledge is their strength. You are no stronger than the knowledge that you have. History has recorded, because of the consequences of slavery, a people, an innocent people being enslaved, robbed of their traditions, their religion, their history, their culture, being miseducated, being under a system that forbid black people from being taught. Yes, we have that in our history. I'm not saying that for people to get emotionally affected tonight. Our future is dependent on our understanding of the issues of the day. Is Mr. Lodru Robinson painting a picture that's unrealistic as relates to our future? Is he pointing us in the right direction when he asks us to consider the way we're looking at terms like race and race relations? And if it's necessary for us to consider what's required for us to get the best out of ourselves as human beings? Are we at a time where it's really a good time to be living because we see amazing things happening? Is that really true? Amazing things being talked about? Is that really true? What level of knowledge do we have for us to support this consideration or this viewpoint? A people's knowledge is their strength. You are no stronger than your knowledge base. I'm going to quote something that I've attached myself to, and maybe you'll have a reason to after hearing this four-liner. No man can keep growing in real knowledge and remain small morally. No man can keep growing in real knowledge and remain small morally. Any man that grows in real knowledge and remains small morally has not even known the knowledge that he has been following. He has been growing mechanically. And that word mechanically simply means growing from impulsivity, doing things spontaneously, doing things automatic, sometimes without even thinking. I believe that four-liner, because of its value, deserves to be repeated. No man can keep growing in real knowledge and remain small morally. Morally has to do with looking at things from a perspective of being right or wrong. So to understand the value of understanding the highest level in real knowledge, once you get real knowledge, you can't stay small-minded and ignore what is right. No man can keep growing in real knowledge and remain small morally. It's impossible. Any man that grows in real knowledge and remains small morally, he has not been following. He does not understand. He does not know the knowledge that he has been following. He has been growing mechanically. He's been operating instinctively, without thinking. I see a lot in that. Bermuda's Black history, looking at the 19th and 20th century, it was an article written in February 8, 2026, and it said that the emancipation of slavery lies at the heart of change in the 1800s. The emancipation of slavery lies at the heart of change in the 1800s. Are we aware of what happened during the 1800s? In order for us to make sense of these things that we speak about, we have to be aware. Abolition, however, abolition of slavery, was but a first step, and enormous social and economic challenges. Enormous social and economic challenges, including segregation, faced Black Bermudians for years to come. Their response to the inequalities they encountered every day included the establishment of friendly societies, educational facilities, and even pension provisions. Some of the contributors of the early contributions after the emancipation of slavery in 1834 in Bermuda, there were some very important things done to try to get us started as a people who were lost, without friends, without material wealth, without economic wealth. Majority of us having been down in education. The majority of us weren't highly educated. There were a few amongst the Black community that were educated. But they knew that they were free to express the best of themselves. We should want to understand what type of progress we've made, knowing what our needs are. Segregation in Bermuda, which lasted for 137 years following the 1834 abolition of slavery, which was officially ended through a series of action between 1959, that was when I was 9 years old, and 1971. Some major things were done between 1959 and 1971. The 1959 theater boycott was pivotal as a moment that followed by segregation of businesses, and in the 1960s, pardon me, let me reread that, pardon me. I'm getting ahead of myself. The 1959 theater boycott was a pivotal moment, followed by desegregation of businesses in the 1960s and desegregation of the schools by 1971. Despite the end of legal segregation, the legacy of racial inequalities persist, with organizations like the Citizens to Uproot Racism in Bermuda, acronym CURB, C-U-R-B. Despite the end of legal segregation, the legacy of racial inequalities persist, with organizations like CURB, which is described Citizens Uprooting Racism in Bermuda, working on ongoing issues. The imbalance as it relates to what came after the burden of racism. There is a residual that we are suffering from today that we need to better understand so as we could participate in a more responsible way. Now, the abolition of slavery occurred in 1834, but this did not end the systematic, invisible apartheid. Now, the word apartheid means a policy of racial segregation practiced in, at that time, they called it the Republic of South Africa. But apartheid was practiced in various areas. It just wasn't called apartheid. A policy of racial segregation, separation of races, was practiced in different parts of the world. It wasn't just in South Africa, but they called it apartheid in South Africa, and a lot of attention went to that. So we have reminders that even though we have abolished the legality of having slave trade and the legality of mistreating people because of their race and having a system that is intended to accommodate the privileged and according to the color of their skin to be given benefits over and above another people. Policies and laws established to cater to that. We are constantly breaking down those barriers. How far have we gotten? Are we addressing the proper or the more important areas of concern when we think about what comes along with people believing, first of all, that they needed to have a system that wanted to establish a group of human beings as being less than human, number one. Keep that in mind, and too many of us are afraid. We have a ghost in the back of our mind that we're afraid of in dealing with the facts and the truth of the matter when it comes down to history. We are not going to address the inequalities in history that needs to be corrected if we fear to address the truth of the matter. And unfortunately, and I do sympathize for many of our older group of people that knew that there was plenty suffering that took place when people stood up and tried to make changes publicly. People got hurt physically. People got mistreated by not being given opportunity. People were mistreated if you didn't act in the way that the authorities wanted you to act, rather than be who you are, be what you honestly felt and believed in. We have people, our parents, our grandparents, that paid and suffered when they tried to be like that. And they feared for us. I remember I wanted to go for a job at a hotel during the summertime, and I heard that they were hiring busboys in this particular hotel, and I was told to go up there and check it out. They may just consider giving guys that was off school break little hustles. So I came home and told my mom what I intended to do. And she said, no, I'm not really gonna be encouraged. I'm not comfortable with you trying to do that at this point. I was surprised at my mom saying that because, she knew I was always a go-getter sort of thing. I didn't want to depend on her, knowing she had the responsibility of 11 children at the time. My dad died in his early 40s, and most of my mom's lifetime was bringing up most of the children. I think it was only one that was out married at the time. The other 10 she was taking care of. They were living at home. And I couldn't ask for no allowances and ask my mama to give me extra money because I got things I want to be a part of as far as having social comforts as such. I couldn't put that extra burden on my mama. So I always looked to try to do a little hustle here and there. And then she told me why she didn't want me to go into the hotel. I clearly understood her fears. She was working in the hotels doing double shifts. I remember, man. She's working in a hotel doing one thing and working in a restaurant doing another. Double shifts. And she said during the time in which I was going to look for this job, she knew that it was young black guys being trapped in being, what they say, and you're tempted because you see money. If a young person is desperate, young people think that they can get away with things because they think they're invincible. They don't always look at the consequences of their actions. They believe that they can get away. Young people, that's young people's brain, the way they think, that they're not rational and they're not logical when they're young. It's a proven fact that the brain hasn't developed enough for them to be reasonable and logical and practical and all those things. It don't work like that. So my mama told me that a couple young guys were found taking stuff out of rooms because they saw money on dressers and left out in the open. And in some cases, they were setting traps for housemen and busboys and things like that. Different types of traps because they thought these people were guilty of whatever they were guilty of. My mama finished talking to me about why she thought she would not prefer for me at that time. She didn't say never to go. She said at that time it was too sensitive, and she feared for me going in that environment at that time because she knew how hostile things were, knowing how long she lived. So I say that to say what? Our elders, our parents, our grandparents, they lived through a period where they watched their children suffer, sometimes in their innocence.
I see dead people.
And they didn't always feel comfortable having their children in an environment where they could be trapped. Because once they did get to face the law, very seldom did the law work in their favor. Now, I don't say that to point to any one particular thing or the other. I'm saying that to say I understood what my mama wanted me to understand when it came around to the environment that she knew we were in. And she feared Not that I was a thief. She knew I wasn't no thief. But she knew also that I might have been trapped if I didn't know how to think as a young boy in that environment. If I made a mistake in my observations and my understanding, she knew it wouldn't be such a good outcome and an ending if it ever happened. And I know my mom wasn't the only one that thought like that, nor was she the only one whose children went through processes that the inequalities and the unfair system, how it affected innocent black people. So I don't say what I'm saying tonight lightly at all. I believe that we are in a good space and time. I do agree with Mr. Lodrew Robinson when he says we're in an amazing time. Things are moving. If you understood how to measure change, if you knew what you're looking at when you are asked to see what comes along with change, if you understood how history moves within the timelines of human development, in the short time in which the enslaved has been freed, and the types of things that came along with the consequences of enslavement, black people have been making some significant strides in removing things that was intended to disrupt them and slow them down in their growth and development. Now, how do we see our responsibility, knowing that we all have a moral accountability? In order for us to look at these times that we're living in as a people, I personally don't believe that we should spend so much time looking at the issues socially, as much effort as we do put on, or attention that we put on social involvement. When it comes around to what's going to benefit all parties involved, personal responsibility and personal accountability must be on the high level of priorities. Personal responsibility and accountability, particularly when we're looking at moral accountability. I asked the question in concluding my monologue tonight, in looking at the discussion that we would like to have going forward. What was the consequences of our chattel slavery and enslavement? What was the consequences of chattel slavery? The consequences of innocent people being enslaved, because not everybody was without knowledge who became enslaved, but because of the length of time which we were enslaved, we've lost a lot of knowledge. Racial segregation, have we responded correctly? Because there was two things that happened with racial segregation and enslavement, you know. There was an evil act being practiced on our innocent people, number one, and to mislead society by saying that black people should be seen the way they are, as without value. They're not equal to human beings. And because of that, they shouldn't be educated like normal human beings should be educated. So when it comes around to knowing that was a mentality of the authorities that was managing the issue of enslavement and chattel slavery, there was a management issue. The church has been guilty of being in bed with the corrupt people, the corrupt authorities, the corrupt government that decided to perpetuate an act of enslavement of an innocent people because of the color of their skin, and then have 100, and according to what we've been through, 137 years of segregation before we became more serious about protecting and getting rights in the interest of our future. Looking for representing ourselves as human beings, demanding rights as human beings, to demand a system that will respect us as human beings and give us the opportunity to develop as human beings, establish ourselves as human beings. These are the types of things that we need to ask ourselves. Are we having our priorities in the right place when we think about the needs of the two different groups of people when it comes around to our historic facts and truths about one of the most evil things that we've ever had in the history of humankind: human enslavement. Chattel enslavement, not just enslavement, but chattel enslavement, where we became the property of another people. So when we think about time that has gone by, are we looking at what our needs are? And are we catering to our needs? If so, what type of progress are we making? Are we addressing the things in priority? Have we overcome or overlooked some things? Are we ignoring some things? Are we aware of our needs? Do we have people pointing us towards the better way of thinking so as we could plan for the future because of the needs we have? The number is 297-1027. We're talking Balance Matters. Tonight, we're not just talking about slavery. We're not just talking about segregation. We're not just talking about the contributor of an individual who made some major inroads in dealing with the inequalities within politics, within government. We're now looking at the conversation in a broader sense. We have responsibilities, each and every, I'll use the term agent in this scenario, this picture. When I think about responsibilities, I know when I hear comments like charity starts at home and then spreads abroad, when I got the understanding of what that really is saying, each group, which leads back to being a collection of families made up of individuals, families made up with responsible people, from parenting to the child being a subordinate and following the lead of the household in order to accommodate the needs of the family. There is a line of responsibility that should be understood in society when it comes down to the structure of societal life. We cannot expect accountability from the social environment and ignore the family responsibilities. We can't look at people in the neighborhood and question and complain and point at others without wanting to agree that we have personal responsibility first. I often say, when we're talking about matters like we're talking about tonight, before we could expect to address the neighborhood, before we leave our houses, we should want to understand and be clear that we have a responsibility as an individual to be morally accountable in every aspect of life when we leave our doorstep and go out in the environment. When we deal in business, when we participate in education, when it comes around to being in the classroom, when it comes around to being on the job site, when it comes around to earning a business, when it comes around to working with colleagues, we have to respect those roles and be morally accountable, the individual, before we look at having government to accommodate any of the things that we know that comes along with facilitation through government. Government has a job to perform for every man, woman, and child that comes from the citizenry. I get that. But we're not supposed to be looking at government as though they are our bank book or they are the ones that we depend on for our best outcome. Before we look at getting government assistance, we should want to know if the individual understands what's expected of them as a citizen. And when we look at these things correctly, I often say, and I very seldom have what I call inspiring conversation when it comes around to looking at getting something from outside before you look at being responsible from within first. Looking to relate to outsiders or someone else outside of you, be it family, be it the ethnic group, be it a part of business development, before we look at the other person, we have to get and make it clear that we understand what's expected of us individually before we look at someone else satisfying us by giving us what we're asking for from them. The number is 297-1027. We're talking Balance Matters. What was the consequences of chattel slavery and enslavement of innocent people? Racial segregation. Have we responded appropriately? Have we responded appropriately? Calling on Balance Matters.
Hey, good evening, Brother Cromwell. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam.
This is a weighty topic. And I appreciate your approach to the topic. Because as much as we talk about slavery and the abolition of it, it continues today. In fact, today we're dealing with modern-day slavery.
Mm-hmm.
So the tactics and strategies and the entrapment are seen like never before.
Mm.
And so the conversation must begin at home, must begin within ourselves. As the people who have been previously enslaved, we can't forget that history.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, we're doomed to repeat it again.
Yes.
And you spoke about the consequences, the psychological, the emotional, the economic, not to mention the physicality of it. But you said something very important that caught my attention. Well, much of what you said was important, but you highlighted the fact of what your mom shared with you in terms of not wanting to expose you.
Yes, ma'am.
Or allow you to get caught in that entrapment.
Yes, sir.
It's a valuable lesson. I know firsthand of a story. Our young people pursue these careers, entertainment, the flash, the fame. What comes with it? Many enticements. Where young girls and young boys are looking out for their careers in the music industry. Not all of them, but some are being trapped and enticed. Look at the P. Diddy situation, the sex slavery. This is real.
Yes, man.
This is not far off. And until our young people particularly understand what comes with this glamour, there's nothing but danger, hurt, and pain. There's a price that people pay for this fame. And sometimes it's not the sacrifice that our parents made. And so I urge parents to have this conversation with your child. There are new frontiers out there, and everyone wants to make a buck. Because modern-day slavery is primarily economic.
Yes.
We're talking about the forced labor. And these are some of the things that I'm reading now.
Yes.
Bonded labor, sex slavery, domestic slavery.
Yes, man.
It's all within our realm. Some of us are so oblivious to it, we don't even really see what's going on because we're preoccupied with what it is that we want ourselves without considering, as you pointed out earlier, understanding the circumstances and the entrapment.
Right.
This is a very serious time, and it's an exciting time, yes, but it's a time where we have to be very cautious.
Yes.
Because not everyone has, as you pointed out, the ethical standard that will be required for us to move as a people to reach that level of success. We want the opulence. We want the wealth. And it doesn't come overnight. But at the same time, we have to understand the challenges and the struggles that are placed before us. We are a people who only come out of slavery days away, as I see it, and not long at all.
That's right. according to history, is not long at all, man.
Absolutely. And these are the conversations that we need to be mindful of. No, it's not just yesterday. It was gone. It's not gone. It's still here.
Yes.
And if we're not careful, we'll find ourselves back in the same situation. Primarily from an economic standpoint. We talked about the progress of our people. And yes, the social relations have increased. But collectively, as a black people, we have we have retarded our growth from an economic standpoint as a people.
And in some cases, it's hurting us because of the embarrassment that comes along with the actions. Because of people not understanding how they should be acting at this point in time.
That's right. That's right.
Some of us are hurting because what's needed now and what we're seeming to be displaying, man. Like, look, man, I was out Sunday having a little R&R with my missus on Sunday, man. And we were sitting on a bench, sunning, enjoying the atmosphere, looking at nature and just talking about the beautiful environment that was around us. And this is here in the island of Bermuda, the beauty. And an incident took place that really was so... I had to stop. I didn't even know how to say it to my wife because it was so far away from what was making us feel good. It was disturbing to know that I saw it. A woman with her friend, I don't know if it was her husband or her boyfriend, I don't know. She was at a distance, but close enough for me to see her, and I could say everything she had on. That's how close she was. When she bent down to sit on a bench, her breast fell out of her clothes. I said, what did I just see, man? A person just going to sit down on a bench, but because of how she was clad, just the movement of sitting down on a bench put her in an embarrassing situation where her private parts fell out of her clothes. And I said to my wife, because my wife was facing, her back was to it, she didn't see it. And when I told her, it was unbelievable. She said, she was looking for me to explain it. I said, I don't know what I saw just now. I wasn't even looking at it. It was just in my purview. I'm just sitting there, and I said, look at what is the condition that we're in, man.
Sure.
Where we are not appropriately dressed, where we could go through a natural action of sitting down on a park bench and our privates fall out of our clothes. And she was embarrassingly putting them back when I was looking, and I said, I was stunned, man. So why am I saying that? Am I talking about her physically? No, I'm not. I don't need to know her name. I don't need to call no what type of person it was, who it was. None of that's involved. It's about what are we using as a criteria that represents the more important things. Because our pride and our integrity, the way we manage our physical, you said it earlier, psychologically and physically, all that's involved, man. So when we think about what's on our mind when we leave home looking like that, what's driving us to end up like this? Now, if something's wrong with me, if I'm overblowing this, I bet somebody would say something to me, and I wouldn't even talk like this again. But according to how I am feeling, knowing what that represents, to me, that's a big deal, man.
Yeah.
Because we're no longer looking at the things that will make us proud of ourselves, man.
Sure.
And how far does this go? You know, should we be talking about this? Are we concerned about this? Does this bother us? Or
But I think,
go ahead.
but I think that's the issue, right? It's the standard.
Yeah.
So no, we've evolved to a degree that society is dictating. So the ideals of those who perpetuate this, who see this prosperity, economic prosperity, and this psychological manipulation, is got us losing our standard. You talk about some of the marketing strategies and what's designed out there now
Yes.
to help influence these young people thinking, and it's not just young people.
No.
It's all marketed and designed to infiltrate your culture, our cultural values.
Yeah.
And folks don't really see that. That's all a part of enslavement.
Yes. And I'm glad you're talking about it, or what you said just now, because it wasn't a young person that I'm talking about. This was a mature person, looked like she could be grandma status, mate.
There you go.
And I'm just saying, just look at the model that's set for the rest to follow. Have we not? Are we not considering the dignity that's involved with how we represent ourselves physically? Does that matter anymore? Or we could just sell ourselves for a miserable price now? It doesn't matter as long as I get the attention. How are we talking to our next generation for them to have, or even test ourselves out as to understanding what have we adopted as the best qualities? What standards have we accepted to live by if we had to talk to each other?
Sure.
What would we be saying to each other? And I often say, and I say this whenever I have a subject like this, we suffer because we choose not to want to talk about these things.
No doubt. No doubt. And you know, the alarming part about it, for me, at least, because this is no accident, right? We've watched this evolve and come into fruition, where we start beginning to ask ourselves, what's next, right? And so we have a development strategy that's placed before us that is about material acquisition, because this is all a part of materialism.
Yes,
right?
yes.
And it's an oppressive ideology that sinks into our minds that begins to shape our thinking. Hence, it affects our ego. Well, look at me, right?
Yes.
Look at the image that's being portrayed, because it's all about an image today. And we don't realize how that is really enslaving our mind. That's why I say modern day slavery right now is so psychological and economic that people are not even aware of what's transpired, as well as it being spiritual.
Yes.
You put it into context and look at what's happening within the Republican Party or Trumpism in the United States, and their definition, you said it right, their definition of religion.
Yes.
And how they are perceiving Christ and the rule of Christ. Look at it.
Yes.
This stuff is enslaving. It's insulting.
That's right.
And I'm glad you raised it, because it should really be an outcry, particularly from religious warfare people.
That's right, mate.
How you going to tell me in 2026 that Jesus is of this color and this is the chosen one and this is what you must follow? No. We're trying to get away from that.
Look, as I drove down to the studio with you talking about that, I beg to indulge right now, because you're on a sticky wicket right now. When I think about what I know has been a serious approach to racial images of divine, to remove all racial images of divine because of how much that is hurting our children, to see one race of people being depicted one way and another race of people being depicted in an inferior way. The question is, do we understand how this is impacting on our children every day when they go into a church and see a certain people being venerated because they are part of the chosen group and another group not being represented? The question is being asked, do you think about how that's affecting the minds of children when they see that inequality every weekend when they enter the church? where racial images of divine is being displayed. Now, how many of us are seriously looking at that? Because what? We have in history, we're right here in Bermuda. It was Mr. Joshua Marsden of the Methodist Church who started educating black people in Sunday school and wanted to encourage them to read and write and teaching them and putting a portion of the church for black people to be a part of, because the church didn't respect the black people within the church. Mr. Marsden, a white Methodist, decided to embarrass Bermuda by educating slaves. Now, why am I saying that? Because we need to understand that right in church, the individual human life was not respected. Now, am I talking because of emotion? No, I'm not. I'm talking about history.
Sure.
And in light of what Mr. Joshua Marsden tried to do, he's been highlighted as embarrassing the Anglican Church because they were in such tatters in the 1700s that they were not paying attention in educating people religiously or otherwise, particularly the slaves. Were to a point where the governor of Bermuda had to complain to the church that the church wasn't giving attention to the slave people. Now, that's a fact. If people want to know this, look beyond what Cromwell's saying. Look into that information. And what we're asked to do is question how far have we moved from then to now. From the 1800s, it was 1807, 1808 that Mr. Marsden was teaching black slaves and teaching them how to read and write and educating them, him and his wife and his daughter. So that was before the abolition of slavery.
Right.
Before the abolition of slavery. And what history has told us, the Underground Railroad. This guy came from Newfoundland. Wasn't the Canadians opening the doors to the Underground Railroad? So when it comes down to good people wanted to correct the harmful treatment of the corrupt. And we need to be honest about the corruption was in high places, in government and in church leadership. Now, this is not to insult or embarrass, criticize or condemn. Somebody asked last week, or said in a statement in their contribution to the program, they said they would like to see white people do more. Now, whenever I heard people saying that, no individual will do something that they don't want to do. Me wishing and hoping that another group of people, regardless of who they are, or another individual, regardless of who it may be, should do what I expect them to do, it's a waste of my time. We should want to know what's best for us all and see who's about to be pragmatic and practice what they believe.
Sure.
This is what we should be asking at the end of the day, with all this that we've talked about for so long, knowing the progress that the opportunities for progress that's there for us to make. The next step is for us to be honest about who really wants to make significant contributions.
Well, that's our charge. That's our charge in contemporary times, right?
Yes.
That's why I say, when we talk about slavery, modern day slavery still exists. So even though legally it had ended, the practice of it across the board hasn't really changed. Well, we've made progress, but we're seeing other forms of it emerge.
Yes.
Which in turn is enslaving our people psychologically, emotionally, spiritually, and all the rest.
Yes.
And so where we've made progress in some areas, it doesn't substitute for the lack of progress in others. Not if we're talking about being complete human beings or reaching our full potential, so to speak.
Yes.
Individually and collectively. Right?
Yes.
So it requires, so again, I applaud the conversation that you're having because it requires the individual to begin to rethink at all levels. Our rules, the value in what it is that we do, in education, reminding people what's the moral responsibility as it relates to educating children, relating to parents. We have to go back and revisit what's expected of us.
Yes, man.
In this little island. So we're making progress, and as you pointed out last week, we're thankful for Mr. Robertson and those who sacrificed their lives and put themselves in the space to make a difference.
Yes.
We appreciate it.
And hats off to Mr. Robinson. He's simply saying, and we have more work to be done. And he made some suggestions and pointing us down the path that would be useful if we were to manage the conversation in the best way possible. And that's why I said, man, I can't ignore to extend upon that conversation today on this program on Balance Matters, because too often we take care of the surface and we move on to the next subject so quickly, we never really get benefits from discussion based on the value of these issues that is opportunity for us to make great strides from. So I couldn't help but bring this thing back and extend on it tonight. Hopefully we'll see the benefit of it.
Sure. Well, I think, like I say, you've lightened it up. I mean, you've given us much to think about in your monologue. And for me, some of the stuff that I'm looking at and writing about, I think is right on point. Because I think many things we take for granted. We look at the progress, you know, we're dealing with our everyday lives, but at the same time, what's really happening? You know, what will Bermuda look like 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the road?
Yes.
Our children, the economy, the environment, all of this. I just think, you know, we have to really be mindful from where we've come, build on the work that is going forward, and so that we can say, you know, the model country, if you want, we can see Bermuda as a model country, or the people in the country, the sacrifice that they've made.
Yes.
But again, I thank you for your time. I thank you for the conversation. And may God continue to bless you, and I will listen off here.
Thank you very kindly for your contribution. Have the rest of a great evening.
Thank you. You as well.
The number is 297-1027. We're on Magic 102.7 on the FM band. Caller, you on Balance Matters.
Yes, good evening, Brother Shakir.
Good evening to you too, my brother.
Yes, brother. That brother had a very, very good question. What is Bermuda going to look like?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
That's a very good question. You know, and
Yes.
people got to start looking at that and trying to figure out what it's going to look like. What are we going to do? Brother Shakir,
Yes.
right? Looking at far as Bermuda as a whole, I'm talking about self-determination,
Yes.
CARICOM,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
No, we know we have our airspace. How much is that worth? That's a question. We have our waters, so on and so forth. How much that worth? Do you think we can get our young Bermudians or the elder Bermudians, teaching the young Bermudians, right, on how to control that? I see snippets of it now down the airport. They're going and hire these young, beautiful Bermudians down there doing our airspace, right?
Okay. Yes.
We need more of that. You know?
Yes.
But we can start controlling all that. But we must get ready, you know, and I see it happening. But you know what? We have to start talking about CARICOM, how we're going to deal with that, and I see that we can do it for the sake, right, of humanity. Because living under this system, we know what it's like. We are still paying for the adversary's legal bill. We know that, right? And that's a fact.
Yes.
So we have to start making decisions. Otherwise than that, we're going to keep on, right, taking our funds, trying to take our minds and our souls.
Yes.
We see it happening. So you know, we see what's going on in all around the world. Well, we need help, of course, you know. We can still, because we are a beautiful place. We can still have ties with UK, Africa, anywhere, right? Because we are God's country. It's out here for a reason. So we have to start looking at CARICOM, how we're going to deal with that in a positive way, right? Because otherwise, in that, man, it's going to be not too much more for the next generation.
Mm-hmm.
You see, and this is very important. That brother just went off.
Yes.
That brother, I'm telling you, I took everything in, about most of the stuff I took in, right?
Yes.
What he talked about.
Yes.
If people take care of what he talked about, right? Even replay this.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So we can pick up on what's going on, what he said.
Yes.
And you also, Shakira, I think this show is a wonderful show, right, that we can start developing.
Yes. Yes.
Our humanity, you know, especially for the young people too.
Look,
they're going to run this.
Look, I'm so confident. I'm so confident. I'm telling you, in coming into studio tonight, I had a word with one of our colleagues, and I was saying to him that, you know, I've been put to rest, man, to know that when we look at how natural development takes place, natural development comes along with responsibilities, man. We have a timeline, we have things that happen, and we have to face the question of who's going to be responsible to do their part. When we do not do what we're supposed to do, we pay a price, consequences for our actions or lack of action. Then we have opportunity. That's why I know Mr. Lodru Robinson is on point when he says, when he's able to, because he was a well-versed person, he was well-read, he's well-traveled, he's been involved with teaching, he's been involved with community involvement, has been involved with leadership. He's a very balanced individual. And he says, when he looks at the last 20 years, it's amazing. Now, is Mr. Lodru Robinson looking at something weird? Or is he seeing something that we should see as opportunity, man? Because I'm telling you, man, because look, when I think about him saying we need to develop and move towards a greater social reform, well, I get that, and I believe that. Yes, I do. But I'm going to also put a question there. Now, there was something said by this author that I was reading one time, and he said this to the black community, knowing how much great contribution black leaders, male and female, has made internationally in changing wrongs that were unacceptable towards making them right. He said the contribution of black people has been unimaginable. He says you can't count it up how much the world has benefited because of the struggle that black people fought for to be respected as a human being. It got people to be more decent. The more we pointed out to the world how irresponsible they were in their treatment towards black people, it got them to see the ugliness of themselves. And he said the world has benefited in making the correction when they couldn't withstand how bad they looked when they were looking at what the truth of their actions represent. So this particular writer said, the same way that the international world has benefited from the contribution blacks have made towards the international world, he says black leaders now today need to stop and look at their moral accountability to themselves.
Oh my gosh, dude.
He said they've made a great contribution to the world, but he believes that we overlooked the responsibility that we have towards ourselves. He said it would be good for us to stop and consider, have we given what we deserve to ourselves because of the needs that we have, the moral needs and the social needs. He said we need to question that. And from his point of view, he says he believes that we need to step back and give more attention to ourselves because we gave so much attention to the bigger picture and we overlooked our personal needs. When I read that, bro, I'm telling you, that thing it don't need to be repeated to me. I take that hook, line, and sinker.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's the truth.
Yes.
You can't be truth, man. You're not understanding because God sends us all this information.
Yeah.
You know, if you take that up and we have to go with it. Otherwise, you'll be less of people. You know what I mean? You see what's going on in the United States. And trying to change the whole dynamics of history. You know?
Yes.
All that stuff. Now we see it now. We see what's going on. But in Bermuda, we have to start making some serious changes.
Yes.
It's going to take time.
Yes.
Everything takes time, but it has to come. Even though people systems are broken. Right now, there's a Trump thing among a political thing going on right now. This process.
Your voice is breaking up. Your voice is breaking up. I don't know what frequency. Yeah. What you're doing now is good. Whatever you're doing right now, you come back to what it should be. Yeah.
Because even our legal system is broken. You know, right now the courts are clogged up, man, with things getting held back. You know, then the lawyers are charging $500 an hour. So it means, like, you know, this court it's a mess. It's a mess. So people get ripped off. The order has to be taken into consideration that we have to do this. You know.
You still there, Crofty? Oh, okay. You got cut off. Okay. You can call back, Crofty, if you have to, but the number is 297-1027. We're talking Balance Matters. Unfortunately, the last caller, he dropped. His frequency dropped. But we're talking Balance Matters. Call you on Balance Matters.
Yeah, brother, I'm sorry.
Something happened where you dropped. Yeah.
Someone bugged in one of our days and used the voice.
Yeah, anyhow.
Yeah. But yeah, you know where I was at, the legal system needs to be changed. You know that. So it's going to take a lot of things to get done. Because Les Brown has this building there, right? That's the Les Brown Avenue, you know what I mean? And what's going on inside that building, and there's the people that's coming in. It's so, when I walk in there, there's like so much pressure, I can feel it, you know what I mean?
Yes.
I can't stay there too long, but change coming. So I think the minister, Blackburn,
you see, you're breaking up again. You're breaking up again, dear. I don't know what's going on, if you're in a bad location or what, but you're breaking up again.
Yeah, but I'm saying the minister, Lexis Blackburn.
Yes.
The minister, yeah.
Yes.
I must give her thanks for working on bringing this to the table, CARICOM, because we need to set this in our heads now, where we have to set in our young people's minds to really work this how it's supposed to be worked.
Yes.
And and dealing with food production, fishing, all that. I would love to have some nice fresh mangoes coming from down there.
Yes.
Instead of things like shipping stuff like that.
Yes.
And then the education part of it, that would be beautiful because we can hire the people from there to come to our hospitals and caregivers.
Yes.
All that type of stuff can work out because you know what? It seems in this country, Shakir.
Yes.
Because it's time for a change because we have so many talented young Bermudians and I see them in the streets. They're doing a pack of crap, you know what I mean? Because misguided, it's financially, it's pressure.
Yes.
And a lot of them are losing their moms and dads at an early age, of course. So they're taking much more pressure on them. So
yes.
You need to connect with them. I'm teaching some young guys now about how to deal with fishing and stuff, right? So, and the focus.
Yes.
The focus on it. So
yes.
I'm doing my part, bro. But anyway, I'll let somebody else come on and bless you, brother.
Thank you very much for your contribution, Crofty. Have the rest of a great evening.
Yeah, good man.
The number is 297-1027. We're talking Balance Matters. Call you on Balance Matters.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam.
one of the biggest problems in Bermuda that we have is equity and justice.
Mm-hmm.
Now, let me talk about equity and justice. Just to give a quick example, 87% of white Bermudians by 1777 earned slaves. And at the abolition of slavery, those 87% of white Bermudians were paid the reparations. Those reparations, the final payments to those people were made in 2014 or 2015. That's just yesterday, a few days ago, not too long ago.
Uh-huh.
So now, what has to take place to make a start of when we talk about equity and justice?
Yes.
That could be one of the starting points. Or we, as African Bermudian people, we need to be paid those reparations. And then in other areas of in job equity where it's been shown that the differentiations between African Bermudian people and Caucasian people in Bermuda, wages. Caucasian people are it said in the starter report, they're earning $20,000 to $30,000 more. So where's the equity and the justice in that? So I just thought I'd bring that point forward.
Yes.
So that's what I have to say. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam. Yes, that caller, caller, you on Balance Matters?
Okay, how you doing, you Sharia?
Yes.
A serious note, ask you a question. I know the answer. Is Sagamore better than a male like a female or two males like each other? Two males like each other, something wrong with them. And a male like a female, good. We say when, I keep in mind when the 10,000 more man marched on Front Street to say Sagamore's okay. Doesn't man, something wrong with it. Doesn't man the ill man. I mean, it's ludicrous. And then the Greens, they, as a hotel, I'm like better someone speakers now. They have had no attempt, the lawyers have made no attempt to pay what's for percentage. In hotel law, there's 100 owned by one person, one family, local. 60 local, 40 other for the other hotel business. They're Hamilton Princess. Jenny Lovely came here 1,062. And because he's money laundering in South America, killing indigenous Indians of the land. Back in 62, 63, that's when the politics down here. And Jenny Lovely, he was denied it. Because those then knew were wrong. To kill indigenous Indians, use the human organs, and other men that were evil. And it's a little situation going on in business, yeah?
Yes.
And as a hotel, I don't appear being used for time and money because money, and the hotels we're making is now one line now closed. 2020. 2026. I'm waiting for the minister to in government. I see him on an ongoing basis. Which I've seen his busy or not there. I have to see the permanent secretary. I saw one permanent secretary once. He was a gentleman. But later back to see him again. A female had replaced him. I'm saying, there's nothing going on. 2 months, even though government has a $2 billion budget for this year until next year. That's a hell of a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of money. Much less money. But I'm not going to extend the whole, because I want to go next whole extend the situation. I'm not going to do it.
Yes.
Like I said, talk more men, but they'll make a brimstone and burn the fire. That's the head, and that's on real.
Okay, my friend.
Have a good day. Thanks.
Thank you very much for your time. See? Appreciate it. The number is 1027. We're talking Balance Matters. We are in a good space and time with opportunity. Moral accountability is never left to be exclusively practiced by one group or another. To do the right thing, if we were to address what's expected of us and be honest about what the actual results of our practices based on how we are thinking, based on how we are believing, this is directly correlated to the consequences that we're witnessing as we see society, and in most cases, standards to a point where it's embarrassing and insulting to know what we are left to tolerate, and in some cases forced to accept because of the poor leadership of people. Leaders who have been given the power and the responsibility to represent people. The leadership is at a standard where we feel so embarrassed to know internationally. I'm not talking about local leadership. We're talking about global. I was looking at a program this afternoon having to do with the global progressive globalization. The global progressive globalization. And I see what they're talking about and what they're involved with. Neither one of us are excluded. Calling on Balance Matters.
Okay, another thing. During the 70s, right, then we changed from pounds, cents, and pence to cents, and dollars. I was one of the only ones up here that knew the conversion of the the pounds to dollars.
Yes.
Back then, £1,000,000 was $2,400,000. And
Yes.
the first budget back then, 2007, when we changed from pounds to pence to cents and dollars, was $200 million was on it. And right now, it's $2 billion. That means there's 1,000.
Okay. Thank you. Calling on Balance Matters.
Good evening, brother. How you doing this
I'm
evening?
thankful, man. I'm thankful. And yourself?
Good. I just thought I'd tune in. I normally try to listen to the last and maybe make a comment or two, but I think it's a little something relevant. Brother, just like to say this much. I think we're in our second dark age.
Okay.
If you remember back in the day, well, not remember, but through history dictates that the last dark age was taken care of by the Moors, who introduced Europe to hygiene and sanitation, architecture, and all the rest.
Yes.
I'm sure you're familiar with that.
Yes, I am.
Yeah, and so maybe it's up to those of African descent to rescue the world once again. We're in an interesting point in time where much of what is going on is very dark.
Mm-hmm.
However, what I will also say is that when we're looking at systemic racism, would you say that it's somewhat organized?
Yes, I would.
Yeah. Everything from the workplace to government to whatever the place may be. Would you
Yes.
also say it's a crime?
Yes.
So why isn't this dressed as organized crime? And if it is organized crime, why are we waiting for someone else to call it organized crime and we're not calling it ourselves? This is the longest running organized crime in the history of mankind.
Yes.
Long before the mafia, long before the Russian mafia, the Italian mafia, and so on and so forth. In addition to that, chattel slavery. Chattel slavery was the most diabolical business model and trend, because
Yes.
all other slavery, most, if not all other slavery, was based on conquering one group of people and enslaving them for a period of time until such time. This was a business model based on perpetuity. Had it not been for the freedom fighters of us, or not necessarily just black people, but some white folk as well as others.
Yes.
Also, we speak on reparations for slavery. I'm not suggesting that we shouldn't speak on reparations for slavery. However, should it just qualify for slavery, or should we also include apartheid/segregation? Because we don't have to go that far back to slavery to ask for reparations.
Mm-hmm.
They broke the social contract after the Day of Deliverance. I no longer call it emancipation. I call it the Day of Deliverance because it's only the higher being that gave us a Day of Deliverance. The Israelites did not say Pharaoh emancipated them. They gave all credit to a higher being. So I no longer call it emancipation. That's not what I call it. Also, I'm just touching on a few things to provoke thought if you're listening audience.
Yes.
Also, the Roman poet said, give them bread and give them circus, and they will never revolt. It's self-explanatory. In other words, service their shallow desires and they will never revolt.
Mm-hmm.
When we look at our men today, they can tell us who played for Manchester United, Tottenham Hotspurs, or the 49ers, Barcelona, this, that, and the other, or the Lakers, the whomever. Our women can talk on all the other cosmetic influences in terms of, but we don't talk about substance.
Mm-hmm.
So again, we are looking at the Roman poet Jules Verne, speaking on that very subject. Give them circus and give them and give them bread.
Yes.
And give them circus and they will never revolt.
Yes.
We're in that time frame as we speak, because the masses have been entertained, not unlike those that were entertained at the Roman Colosseum when the Christians were being thrown into the lions and the whatever and whoever.
Yes.
That might have been bloodier then. Yes, we've become a little more cosmetically civilized. However, the same distraction is being used, and I don't even think we recognize it. We don't recognize what's happening to us. We've been given all these other distractions, whether it's a little phone that acts as a entertainment or streaming devices or this or that. And when we sit around the kitchen table, if we do decide to sit around a kitchen table, what do we talk about? And how long do we talk about it for? And what solutions do we come up with? And when it comes to reparations, we need to get disciplined first. We need to get disciplined in how we speak to one another, how we treat one another, how we present ourselves to one another. As you very well said, the person that was exposed himself to some degree.
Yes.
Discipline is going to be what we need to focus on before we get any form of reparations. Otherwise, in my humble estimation, the only thing we're going to do is give it back to the people that got reparations in the first place.
Yes.
Because we're not disciplined.
Yeah.
And God ain't giving us, just like a parent, God ain't giving us no more until we get it right with ourselves.
It was not an old saying, but it was something that I grew up with: a fool and his money soon part.
Absolutely. And why should the Creator give us any more, recognizing that we're not disciplined with one another?
Yes.
We're not disciplined in our choosing a mate.
Look, my dear brother,
in terms of creation, we're not disciplined in all types of stuff. So why would the Creator say, you know what, let me give these people some more?
Mm-hmm.
We've got to get ourselves together, and I think your monologue spoke to that tonight.
Yes.
Very often I don't get a chance, as you know, brother. I leave you.
You're a busy person.
And go, but I'm just saying, we've got, and I think you hit the nail on the head when you said, we've got to get ourselves right.
Yes, man. You know, when we are open for discussion on the level that we're having tonight, it begs of us to be straightforward, honest about what it is that is really on our plate. Because, look, when you were talking just now about circus and food, it was the great Bob Marley that said, "A full-bellied man makes a poor revolutionary."
Yeah.
You know, some of us are filled up with whatever we think satisfies us to the point where we don't think we need to stop and be a part of this. We haven't accepted that it's expected of us for us to make the next, what I call, contribution to our development. We need to understand where we are and what's expected of us at the moment, man.
Absolutely.
Because we're still, one of my mentors, I just love when he titled us as a people that are advancing. He said, we are an advancing people. That comment alone suggests for us to understand, in our advancement, where are we?
Yeah.
Because we haven't made it to where we need to be yet.
Not at all.
We're nowhere near that. But that don't mean that we should be disheartened because of where we are. We need to understand why we are where we are. I
think again, if I may.
Go ahead.
And this is just my position and my observation.
Yes.
I don't profess to be right. What I want us to get to right. I'm not obsessed with, I don't have that vanity to be right. I just want us to get to right. And what I am saying is this, is that look how much we've accomplished between the annual segregation to now, in which time we became indisciplined, at almost indisciplined point after slavery. And if we were to become disciplined in how we treat one another, how we spend with one another, how we relate in terms of relationships and have the respectability and discipline in which what is required, and where people think that marriage is about happiness and not about duty, because that's foolishness.
Yes.
Marriage has never been about happiness. Marriage has been about duty.
Yes.
Hollywood made it about happy. When you looked at the whole film thing, that's about happiness. Marriage is about duty. If I'm happy, happiness is fleeting. Happiness is fleeting, but we have an obligation in terms of legacy to leave our families in a better place that we came into this world with, and pass the baton on to the next generation with the same method, not necessarily method, but objective.
Yes.
To do the very same
Yes.
thing, and we're lacking in that, and we gotta get back. We gotta recognize that discipline is what it is. When we look at religion is about discipline. When we look at parenting, it's about discipline. When we look at what just law is about discipline. I do emphasize the just law, because you can make a law that's unjust.
Yes.
It's about discipline.
Yes.
And unless we decide that is full on our plate, all this other stuff is going to be feeding, whether it be reparations, whether it be this, that, or the other. We have to get discipline back on in where we need to be. We can't do it without it. And I think you spoke on it first on your monologue tonight. You may not have said it in that word, but I'm certainly in the understanding
Yes.
of what I got from it.
Yes.
And I've thought about it myself in terms of that, but you've spoke on it tonight on your show, which brings to bear that we have to put that on the front burner and all burners in
Yes.
order to not just get what we want, but to sustain and maintain it as a legacy.
Look,
Generations to come.
before you go off, I would like to share this thought that I'm motivated by only because of how these things are to be put into priority. But I think about the period, what's open to us like tonight, for us to question, where do we fit in this discussion? You know, and I think about, if somebody asks me, am I looking for social relationship, or am I looking for understanding my role and responsibility and knowing that I'm fulfilling my role? I would have to answer the second part first. I do not see me looking to be socially acceptable to any other group, knowing that I have not fulfilled my task to my own responsible and accountable areas that comes along with being as an obligation. For instance, ethnically, we are tied to a people. What we've been reminded of, we could select our friends, but we can't select our family. Ethnically, we are a family. We have an obligation to the ethnic group. Then we have a nucleus of families that makes up the group, a nucleus of families. We have to question how well are we doing with the responsibilities that falls in those two categories. That's the starting point. Before we could look at getting involved with, that's why I like what that author said. We knew we needed to take the foot off our neck that was on us as a people, and we fought hard to get rid of that foot off our neck. But now that we know that we have the ability to measure our own development and achieve the things that's best suited for us, we have a personal and committed responsibility to our kind. If we don't answer that, we are not being accountable.
Not at all.
So I don't know why we seem to shy away from having a broader conversation on this level. I would think that we would invite this because we are desperately in need of us being accountable and being proud of the things that we're accountable to.
Yes, and if I may add also, when I'm speaking of revolt,
yes,
I'm speaking of a revolt of intelligence, not necessarily picking up arms.
Yeah, that's right. I got you.
Don't want that misinterpreted.
Yes.
After all, we're having an intellectual intercourse tonight.
Yes.
And I would like to maintain that intellectual intercourse so that we understand that the revolt is of intelligence, and with that intelligence comes a plan on after you win that revolt. You have a plan for day one on what that revolt looks like, because you cannot have a revolution without having a plan after you win the revolution.
Yes, sir.
It serves no purpose.
Yes.
With that, I thank you for your time.
I thank you for your contribution, sir.
Thank you.
Have the rest of a great evening. The number is 297-1027. We're talking Balance Matters. What a lovely day we're in. What a great opportunity that we have. Each one of us, whoever we may be, whatever has been our past, this present day is giving us a certain amount of enlightenment that allows us to consider what type of adjustments we can make to be of greater value to ourselves, to our lot, than to the broader society. Sometimes because of our poor state, we are not useful to the broader society. In some cases, ending up being a problem rather than an asset. If we're in a poor state, like the brother said just now, he said, revolution with intellect is the revolution that we should be looking for. Evolution of the intellect, the improvement of the intellect. That's why I opened up by saying we're going to approach this discussion tonight pragmatically, relating to practical things, practical affairs, concerning ourselves with consequences that comes along with our actions. The types of things that we are doing, we need to assess the outcome of these things, what's connected to the action. In most cases, it's knowledge, or the lack of knowledge, or improper knowledge, which leads to us having belief systems that could be flawed if we're not reaching the objective that's in our best interest. We've got the opportunity to reflect. Dear listening audience, I don't think there's any one of us that's left out of this picture. For instance, in looking at this subject of race relations and desegregation and moving up from enslavement in the free world now to having to deal with the residual effect, which was discrimination and segregation. Over 100 years, 137 years, we were going through segregation. So when we look at what we've become after that has impacted on us as a society, I often struggled with people expecting me to accommodate and satisfy them at the expense of ignoring my needs. To to act as though whatever fell in the category of needs in the black community, to put an emphasis on achieving that was to be seen as separating ourselves from the other things that allow us to be a society. No, the black community needs to first understand how important it is for us to fulfill our obligation naturally that has been neglected because of the conditions that was responsible for our outcome being ill-prepared, without what they say, the goods, be it material or economic goods, what they say, more so now, the intelligence, the value of intelligence, the greatest asset to a human being is to utilize their intelligence to their best potential and get the best results that will reflect on elevation, progress, achievement, success. These are the types of things that black people need to focus on and finally accept responsibility for. So I couldn't see myself having a conversation and assimilating with other people just to say we're getting along. I ain't looking for that as an individual. What I would like for us to see as people, a collective group, as a human family, is that each one of us do our civic duty, do our normal human duty, which is expected of us to respect all human life. And in doing so, no one should have to encourage the next person to act responsibly, respectfully, and considerately with the next person. When we are guilty of not emphasizing or putting that into practice, there lies the greater problem. And unfortunately, we're not used to utilizing times like this for us to really talk about and be sincere about what needs to be done next for us to be better in being respectful as humans one to another. The number is 297-1027. We're talking Balance Matters. I feel so good to know that in 2026, it's open for us to think about and see the benefit in us getting beyond the discomfort when we discuss these matters. And when we discuss them and accept what's in our best interest, the religious leader, he should go back to his office and do his job correctly. The teacher in school should accept their responsibility and do their job better. The supervisor on the job needs to accept accountability and responsibility and be fair and decent. The politician that has responsibility for caring for all that's under his purview because we gave him the power to represent that they should be doing it for the right reasons rather than personal interest. It should be for the collective interest. When it comes around to truth, one time ago, the truth and higher knowledge was known to be amongst the privileged and the few. And they didn't see fit to share it with the majority. They didn't think they needed to do that. In today's world, you can't get away with having knowledge, having a responsibility, and don't want to involve the masses, the common folk, to elevate the common folk and give them an opportunity to have equal opportunity to information, so as they can utilize that information in the way that they think is beneficial to themselves and whoever's under their responsibility, under their care. We are living in a time where we need to be more honest about these things. And if we sincerely want to respect humankind, we should be saying, you know, we need to acknowledge where we are, be compassionate, be sincere, be truthful, and be decent. When we decide to want to do that for the right reasons, God, in his infinite mercy, the Creator, in his infinite mercy, like he's done forever, whenever he has one of his servants, and his servants are the ones he created. Human beings are the servants, are created to serve God. We were created to serve the Creator. The choice not to do so is to our peril. When the Creator knows the heart of his servant as being sincere, and his servant wants to do good for goodness sake, for the elevation of the masses, the Creator makes available to those individuals whatever they need to achieve their goals and objectives. Time memorial has proven that to be true. It's not my opinion, it's a fact, historically speaking. So I end the program tonight with this, my dear listening audience. Let us not doubt the opportunity that we have. Let us not take lightly what we tried to do tonight. And I can understand why we do not take full advantage of discussions like this. But hopefully, we'll sit back and think about this more and gain the strength and the courage to do our part the best we can. And in doing so, we're going to end up talking about the things most necessary for us to make the necessary corrections in our lives, which in turn will cause us to respect and treat each other better, to respect the issues of the day better, and to contribute in a way where we all will be making a greater progress in this time of truth-telling, where goodness is on the rise, and we know what the outcome of our behavior is showing. And we should not want to be disruptive. We should be wanting to be a part of constructive development of our community. Tune in next week to Balance Matters.
Bermuda Live on YouTube. Subscribe now.